Hello again, guys. I'm back, and I'm going to be talking about the nation of Early Age Ulm. I'll do a little bit of a nation intro for this one and talk about some ideas, but specifically I want to talk about one strategy that I really would like to try in an online game, and something I've only kind of realized recently. Now, I heard something about this before, but there's actually kind of a unique feature about Early Age Ulm that I think a lot of people don't really realize. And this is a test game I was playing to try this out. You can see not much is going on here. I was battling a little bit here. But let's exit out of here. You can see I'm reanimated, and I'll talk about why I'm doing that in a minute. Now, the idea I wanted to try with this nation is something a little bit unique that, again, I don't think that many people really try that often. And this idea is using a lot of reanimation. And why would you do that? Ulm is not really a big death nation. You do get a little bit of death income at the start. I believe you get one death gem at the start. I've been death searching a lot around here with my god. I took death on my god here. This is my god. I'll talk about him as well in a minute. But I haven't found that many sites, so I still only have a little bit of death income, about 4 per turn. I would like more. But the strategy I'm trying to test out for this game is going really heavy into the death, especially using reanimation, which is a spell you don't really use that often. Now, what is the reanimation spell? Let me take a look here. This is just a enchantment 1 spell, 3 gems, reanimation. This will, sorry, let's go back there. This will summon about 10 or more long dead. And if you guys know long dead, obviously they're kind of a trashy chaff unit. They're okay in big numbers, but usually they get taken out pretty quickly. But something unique about Ulm, especially Ulm's long dead, is you actually have a unique long dead, which most nations don't get. Nations like, for example, what is the other one? Ashdod, they do get like the giant undead. Some other nations get a few unique long dead. But Ulm is one of them that gets unique long dead. And let's take a look at some of their undead. Do I have any here? I have a few here. So if you look at the long dead, I summoned a few. They look actually quite different. You could see they have not only full armor in many cases, the scale mail and an iron cap, they also have quite good weapons. This one has a broadsword and an axe, so he's dual wielding here. So that's pretty nice. This is basically equivalent of some of your warriors. And you can see there's a little bit of variety. This guy just has a hat, but he still has the 2 weapons. And sometimes you'll even get, I think I have a party here with some. Here's some. Sometimes you'll even get these ones. These are long dead, again with some armor and a great sword. So it depends how many you'll get these. I'm not sure if it's based on luck scales or the skill of the caster, but sometimes you get quite a lot of these long dead with the long sword, with the great sword. And these guys hit pretty hard for a long dead. So these guys are actually quite decent chaff. I've been summoning quite a few of these. I have a few mages, since my shamans will sometimes spawn with death magic. I've been having my death shamans cast reanimation. I just have maybe 1 or 2 going at a turn because I don't have too much death income in general. But having these guys cast long dead, summon long dead, the reanimation spells, gives me a nice little bit of chaff. And I was kind of thinking what I could do with that to make this more useful. I did try to take death on my god. I'll talk about this god idea in a minute. I think this is a very unique kind of god that I think I've never seen really anyone play. This is actually, it looks like the Linmore, the kind of water death dragon-like creature you can get as a god. However, this is not the Dominion 2 monster. This is actually a Dominion 1 little dwarf. Let me change him back. So this is normal form. This Master Smith dwarf, he has death and earth magic as his basics, and he has this ring of gleaming gold. And he can actually transform into the Linmore, which makes him not kind of a decent expander. I used him quite a bit for expansion. You do have to be a little bit careful with him. Definitely this version of him I think is actually better than the Dominion 2 monster form, because the Dominion monster 2 monster has water and death, which are not that great for expansion. It makes him a little bit squishy. However, this one has earth, so I took higher earth with him, and that allowed me to take a hard skin bless, which makes him a little bit more durable. So he's actually expanded quite nicely. He has the poison cloud as well. He has a poison cloud effect around him, and he spits poison too, plus he has like 3 different attacks beyond just the gas attack. So he's actually not too bad as an expander, and I used him quite a bit for expanding, alternating between expanding as well as site searching. I've had him site searching in a few areas you can see, but I haven't found many sites, not been that lucky for it. So I think I found 1 death site with him. So not too lucky. I would have liked to find more, but you know, that's my idea basically. My theory for this game is to kind of maximize the late game with Ulm. Ulm has a big problem with late game. You have a lot of these cheap units, which are okay. You have your Sacred, the Steel Warrior. Actually, I'm going to exit out of here. Let's go back to the game screen. Let's make a god here. I'll talk about the god a little bit. So let's talk about the nation a little bit more. So Ulm has a lot of these kind of cheap units. All your units are very cheap. You can recruit quite a lot of them, and a big strength of the nation is having hordes of fairly decent, fairly strong units. And they're quite good. They're quite killy. They can hit very hard. A lot of them have 2 or even 3 attacks. And they have a lot of decent things about them. A lot of them will also have stealth, like this guy's stealth. So you can even do some kind of budget elfing tactics with these guys. A few parties of your mountain warriors or your forest warriors, for example, can go around and snipe provinces from other people, do some good raiding. So you have a lot of benefits like that. You have these bigger guys who have quite a hard attack, and these guys are also stealthy. So imagine a stealthy guy carrying a huge hammer like this. That's a pretty nice hit. And then you have your Sacreds, which are not stealth. Oh, sorry, they are stealthy in this case, but I believe this is because I'm using a mod. I'm not sure if these guys are normally stealthy. Let me actually turn the mod off just for a second. Okay, so yeah, these guys are not stealthy normally. So your Sacreds are usually not stealthy. Some of your units are, like the more basic units, have stealth on them. These warriors. But the more elite units, like the Mountain Warrior and the Forest Warrior, are not stealthy. Your archers, these female archers, are stealthy. So you can have some stealthy options as Ulm, like the kind of vanilla Ulm. But not all your choices are stealthy here. You can see this guy's not stealthy at all. But you still have a lot of decent units. There's a big problem with a lot of units, though, is that their magic resistance sucks. You have 8 magic resistance. And by the time you get to the late game, some okay, decent units with a little bit of stealth and piss poor magic resistance, these guys just get killed very easily. Another problem is your mages are pretty weak, especially for early age, where a lot of nations have really strong mages. You have your warrior smith, who just has 1 earth, and then 1 something else, with a 50% chance to get another path in one of these elemental paths. So this guy's okay as like a battle mage. I would mostly keep him to foraging, and I wouldn't recruit too many of these guys just because they're not sacred, so the upkeep is not really that worth it. I'd rather get the shamans because they're sacred, so the upkeep is cheaper. And the paths are a little bit more useful in general. I'd rather have like death and nature rather than all these elemental paths. But you know, it's okay if you get some of these guys with some nice paths. For example, if you get lucky with getting 2 of one of these is nice. Even if you get 3 earth, that could be nice too. Still, I only recruit a few of these guys for mostly crafting, and then I mostly get lots and lots of shamans. But the problem is, you can see the shaman kind of sucks. He only gets 1, 2 paths. Maybe if he's lucky, he gets 3. Your big mage, the Antler Shaman, has 2 earth, 2 nature, and then only a 10% chance for something else. So this really sucks. This is like equivalent to the shitty mages you get in late age, but except this is an early age, and this is a slow to recruit cap-only mage. So honestly, I feel like I don't really recruit these that much, because having 2 earth, 2 nature, unless you really need that, it feels like it's not really worth it, to be honest. I mean, it's okay. He is decent research. Your normal shamans are really terrible at research. So these guys are a little bit more efficient if you have the gold for researching, but not much more. 9 research versus 7. So either way, you're always going to suffer when it comes to research. Ulm is not a nation that really thrives in research. Ulm is a nation where you need to make something, you need to summon things, you need to build things, and use that to your advantage. Now, one strategy I've seen using Ulm is to go for something focusing on constructions, as in thugging a little bit, send out some of your holy priests as a thug, or even summoning some bigger thugs like Troll Kings and things like that if you can get your gem income enough. And building a lot of gear for them so they can go around and cause trouble. That plus raiding can be quite useful. I played a game recently where the enemy player who was playing as Early Age Ulm used a lot of golems, and those golems were very useful for raiding. They're great thugs, and they were very hard for me to kill because I didn't have any astral magic. Another strategy, which I kind of want to play with a little bit more, is going for a death-focused Ulm. Now, most people don't think of Ulm as a death nation, as I said before. However, they do have death magic natively. You can get death 2 fairly often on these guys. And if you take death on your pretender as well, maybe even go for a full death pretender like a demi-lich. Just take a ton of death. That could be quite nice as well, though I don't know what death blesses would be really worth taking. I don't really want to take a big bless for my units, because my units are just not that good. I probably only take 5 death, just so I can easily ramp up and cast all the big death spells. Getting from 4 to 5 death, and 5 and above is pretty difficult, so I like to go 5 death, because it makes going up beyond that much easier. But actually, what I ended up using was this guy, Svalbard Mastersmith, because he can transform into this monster, which is actually a decent expander, as I said. So I go for something like that, 5 death and 6 earth. I guess you can go less earth, but I wanted hard skin specifically for the god to expand a little bit, and I guess it's okay for some of my units as well. It makes my priests a little bit more, less vulnerable, I should say. If I want to make a swarm of these kind of shamans, having a little bit more protection on them is not too bad either. So that's not too bad. And the death, I don't really take much for a death bless. I just took a bunch of undead command. I think I went like this, 4 undead command and then like undying or something like that. This is basically so all my units can command a lot of undead. And beyond that, that was about it. So a very simple bless. But my logic behind this was, for one, I want to start death searching very early. So this guy could be my expander and my sight searcher. He expands and then he sight searches one after another, basically. And that's what I had him doing in the test game I was playing, even though I wasn't very lucky finding sights. Beyond that, he's also a decent god. As I said, he has the Poison Cloud, he has 4 attacks, and he can swim across rivers, so that means you can go across rivers that are blocking you for something if you're playing some maps that have very difficult terrain, so that's always nice for a god as well. And he's not cold-blooded, so he doesn't suffer from the Cold Dominion, which you usually want to take as Ulm anyways. And he has a big fear 10, which is pretty good. So I think this is a nice god, and my strategy, like I said, for something like this was to try to ramp up my death magic really early on. So you have a little bit of death as Ulm, but my strategy for this idea would be to really crank up the death as early as possible. Sight search a lot, try to get as much death income as possible, and really start pumping out some summonable death mages, like if I can get the Mound Fiends a little bit later. If I can research enchantment, I probably should be researching enchantment more. Get up to, which level is it? Is it enchantment or conjuration? I forget which one it is. Revive Bane. Bane Lord, where's the Mound Fiend? Dude, this is the one problem with trying to find specific thing. Okay, here's Mound Fiend at Conjuration 7. So getting some bigger death mages going into Conjuration and into Enchantment to really focus on summons to offset your pretty mediocre troops, especially in the late game. So that would be a strategy that I try to follow. I try to sight search a lot. I probably should be getting a lot of these little death mages out there to sight search, maybe some of these guys to go out here and search for something. That would be something I like to follow, and try to find as many death sites as possible to really ramp up my death income, and also other income as well, like earth or nature, and just really focus on spamming lots of summons. So let's move on from here. I'm going to actually move my god into one of these provinces. Let's see how well he does in a battle. So I'd like to see him if he could fight against something in my own dominion. But we'll see how he does right here, even though this is not my dominion. Maybe I'll throw one of these priests in there to bless him, so he doesn't get killed. So let's have this guy just cast Blessing. And then just do whatever. He can do something. Alright, we'll see how a battle goes with him. Just to see how he manages in combat. These guys are doing something. Send these guys out. I guess I'll start attacking Arcocephali now. I don't really know what else to do in this test game. I think I was building something somewhere. Yeah, let's just attack him. Why not? Alright, so let's see how that goes. Alright, there's some battles. Battle here, not too bad. Just against some PD. Here's the army I set up with my national long dead. Again, you can see a lot of them have these dual weapons. The sword and the axe. So again, each of these long dead is getting 2 attacks, which is very nice. And then I have my Sacrets, the Steel Warriors, and these Iron Warriors. Speed up a little bit. I want to see how well these long dead do. Seems like they could barely get into the fight. But still, I think it's interesting to have them anyways. It's something you should consider if you ever feel like playing Ulm. Because they're pretty interesting kind of units. And I like any nation that has a national long dead as an option. So here was the battle here. Looks like they did quite well. I fought some Wind Lords. And these dogs died, but they don't matter. Let's see how the battle went. I don't even know if my god actually even fought anyone. He may have just cast spells. Oh, this is what killed them. So these dogs ended up dying, looks like, in this poison cloud. Okay, so he just spammed skeletons, looks like. Did he attack anything? Probably he didn't even attack anyone. Okay, he killed one Windlord, looks like, with his poison, and then he killed every single one of my dogs. Doesn't really matter. These dogs were something I got from an event, or from, I think it was one of the Thrones was spawning them, so they're not really anything I paid for, so it doesn't really matter. So that's how it went. Let's try one more battle with the god. I'll put him in a little bit more dangerous situation. Let's attack this fort. And then I'll have this group also attack one of these forts, I guess. What is this? Is this their capital? Let's have all of these guys move in. We'll see how that goes against them here. I'm not really going to continue with this game. I think after this turn or so, I'm just kind of playing around. But like I said, I think if I was going to follow through with this sort of strategy for the long term, one thing I would do is I would try to get someone reanimating every turn, get some nice chaff built up. So you can see I have one of my mages casting reanimation every turn. He's summoning a lot of these long dead guys, these national long dead. I would probably try to prioritize, I should go, sorry, Conjuration, I guess, and Enchantment. I've not really been keeping track of what I'm actually doing. This is so I can do things like cast Twiceborn on a lot of my undead, my death mages, so they can maybe come back as a white later. I can also do things eventually like summoning some useful units. Where's the one I was thinking of? A little bit later you can get things like the Lichcraft around level 8, or in the case of Conjuration, you can get things like some of the mages, for example, I mentioned before, the Mound Fiend, and as well you get Revenant. If you really want some cheap kind of Death 1 mages, I guess you can summon Revenants, though I don't know if I would. Where are they here? I think he's in in Enchantment. Yeah, summon Mound Fiend at level 7. This is probably what you want to go for to help you get up to more powerful death magic. As well, you can call a Wraith Lord as well, but Mound Fiend is something you pretty easily summon with some of your Death 2 mages. Just get them to make a Skull Staff, and they can be easily Death 3. I would like to try to get into Death as much as possible anyways, and really build up a big Death economy. And again, it may be even worth it to summon some Revenants. Can I actually summon Revenant now? I can create a Revenant, so that takes 9 gems. I need a Death 2 mage, and this summons only a Death 1, so it may or may not be worth it. Depends how lucky you get with your shamans rolling death. If you're really suffering for shamans with some death magic, I would maybe try it, but probably not worth it that much. Really, you want to do things like for example, start crafting some death items. So like a skull staff, so you can give to some of your weaker mages so they can have a bunch of death 2s running around. Maybe I should be researching probably, not conjuration, but construction. Construction is great for Ulm anyways. It may even be worth to empower one of your forgers in death if you can afford it. So that way you can craft some death items for a little bit cheaper and get the crafting bonus with them as well. So maybe one warrior smith with a death enchantment, or sorry, death booster would be nice. And this guy, can he actually have a forging bonus? I don't think he does. Let me see if he has a forge bonus in his other form. Because I know he's Master Smith. He actually is. So he is a Master Smith. So this god actually will give you the forge bonus as well. So he could be a forger if you want to take him away from the front lines later and keep him as your forge master for death and earth. That can be useful as well. Another thing to consider with creating a god is, since you're doing the little Dominion 1 god, you could also consider throwing some astral on him. That'll give you the pretty nice cross paths of astral death as well as astral earth for any kind of crystal gear or even making golems later. So that gives you a lot of versatility in the game. He may not be as useful for expansion without hard skin, but he could be okay as long as you're very careful with him and make sure he doesn't go into any questionable locations. But that could be an option as well. Let's exit out of the game here. So specifically going over Pretender design, this is the Pretender I went with. Let's see him here. Where is he? I just gave him a generic name. So with Hard Skim, 3 times Undead Command. Oh, and Half Dead, yeah. I'm not sure why I went with this. I guess to prevent diseases. I don't know if you really need to do with this. I don't know if it's that useful. It does prevent your units getting sick. Since you take cold, they may get sick often in the winter. Your units are not that old, but I don't know. It could be useful in some way. It doesn't actually give them any undead bonuses, so it doesn't do too much. I think I just took this because I dumped death scales, so I thought, oh, why not? That was a little bit of a flimsy sort of god design. Probably a little bit better would be just to take Undying rather than that. But here he is, Svalvart Mastersmith, and he becomes the Lindworm kind of form after. So I take Hard Skin, for sure, to make him a little bit better of an expander, and then 5 Death, just so I can ramp up the Death path a little bit easier. Now, I do like to take Undead Command so that all of my Sacrets can do something with, at least lead some Undead. One option could be to take 1 Undead Command and then maybe something like Withering Weapons to give your Sacrets a little bit more staying power in the late game. That way you can have a group of your Steel Warriors be kind of like an anti-thug force. With Withering Weapons, they can cause decay on them, so that could be an option as well. Most people tend to not like Withering Weapons, but I think it's fine. It's just like an additional kind of thing. It won't kill anything like units that quickly, but it's nice against commanders or especially any kind of thugs. It could be useful. So it might be nice with that, and all you need is a little bit of Undead Command, really. You're not going to have tons and tons of Undead, so having 1 Undead Command will be more than enough. You could go a little bit heavier with Undying or Undead Command, or even go with Half Dead, which I did before. Another option would be just don't even bother with Undead Command and go with Stygian Flesh to get a really big protection bonus. But I think that's overkill with Hard Skin, and to be honest, I don't think it's that useful. I'd rather go with Undead Command and maybe like this. So now how can I make this build work? I will go with Cold 3 because Ulm generally likes that. I wanted to go with a little bit more production and order. I think I went Death 2, though you could probably go something else. Can I afford this? So it's a little bit tight for the money. Something like this could work. I don't really want to go too low in magic because my magic is already really, really weak as Ulm. Maybe going magic 3 might be okay if you could afford it, but you'd really have to sacrifice a lot of other things, and your mages are just not that great anyways. Beyond just researching, which I wouldn't really worry about too much, I think I'll just go magic 0. So something like this could be okay. Maybe I could afford something else if I could dump one of these scales a little bit more. I could just go like that. That could be okay as well. So something like this might be alright. If you really don't like death scales, you can go back and maybe dump like this fortune or something. I normally don't like Misfortune 2, but if you're willing to go Order, it could balance out a little bit. That could be nice. You can even just go with 0, take a little bit of productivity, or even just like 1 order here, and then go something like 1 death, and then dump that, or anything else you want to do. I think it doesn't really matter too much to the scales. I just really don't want to go negative magic because my research is already really terrible. I don't really necessarily need to go positive magic, but I don't need to go negative. And I do like to have some positive in the order and production scales, just because even though my units are fairly cheap, I like being able to spam them. It's quite nice to be able to spam some units out as Ulm, so I really want to get a lot of these guys out, or at least a decent number of them, to make use of their chaffy kind of qualities. Another option I mentioned was going for something more astral focused. So I'd probably cut down on both of these, maybe bring both of these down to 4, and bring astral to something like 4 or 5. Let's cut back on here. I'll have to get these blesses right. How can I balance this about? Maybe go down to 4 here. If I want to do this, it may be even worth taking him dormant. Then he won't be much of an expander, but he will be a nice mid-game kind of option. And really, since he is just a Dom 1 little guy, he can be more focused on crafting and doing stuff for you in general. So maybe going dormant with him, then you kind of lose him as an expander, but you can still take some okay scales in this case, and you don't have to worry too much. But still, I think I don't really need Astral that badly. I'd rather go for the higher Death and higher Earth, and go for something a little bit like that, maybe. Alright. Let's go back to the game here. So, not much else to really say about this nation. It's often overlooked, I think, because a lot of people think it's pretty boring, just a lot of generic human units, not too much special, not really the big magic that other nations might have, especially in the early age. So it's something a lot of people feel kind of avoidant towards. But I still think it's a pretty cool nation with a lot of little tricks up its sleeve, and I definitely want to look at this further, how death magic and really going heavy into building a death economy would work for this nation, especially into the mid and late game. I think it could be pretty interesting, and I would like to really try it out sometime, but I'll probably have to update that again once I try playing a few games a bit longer with the strategy. But just remember this, if you're playing Ulm, remember that in this case, even though reanimation is usually something you don't want to use, it may actually be kind of nice and useful for you, just to get a little bit of extra chaff out, to fill up your armies with tons and tons and tons of guys, and really start bringing on the pain. A ton of chaff and a bunch of your cheap shamans running into battle, just casting whatever, is really, really powerful. And I, for one, have seen it myself how powerful it can be facing something like 50 shamans in a battle and a horde of chaff. So this is your big advantage of Ulm. You are a barbarian nation. You want that barbarian horde to just run over everybody and crush them. So you really need to maximize your horde tactics. And I think death is a good way to really max that out, and also give you a late game option with things like immortals and bigger death mages a little bit later. But I think I'm going to end the video here for now, guys. Just a quick video to talk about this nation, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye, guys.